Hey, this is Kevin Robinson, K-Rob. You're listening to The Expansion Project.
Welcome back to another episode of the Expansion Project podcast. I am your host, Fat Tony. On this show, I have casual yet deep conversations with professional athletes, entrepreneurs, authors, bloggers, investors, and other people that I find to be successful in hopes of expanding my mind and yours while motivating and inspiring people along the way. Today, my guest is Colton Satterfield. He is a 25-year-old professional BMX rider who grew up in Utah. Colton has only been around on the scene since 2009 when he qualified for his first big pro contest, but now only 6 years later, he's already won 2 X Games gold medals. Currently, Colton is best known for riding the Mega Ramp, which is the giant 70-foot gap that you see at the X Games, followed up by the insanely tall 26-foot high quarter pipe. On this episode, we talked a lot about positivity and following your dreams, and I asked Colton all about the people who have inspired him and been a major influence on his life along his journey. I also asked him about his goals within BMX and how his mentality has changed after winning the X Games gold medals. I think what you're going to learn from this episode is a lot about the mindset of someone who has a really big vision of where he feels like he's supposed to be in this life. Before I welcome my guest today, I want to say thank you to everybody for telling your friends about the show and for posting about the show on your social networks. That really helps spread the word, so I appreciate that. Also, thanks for giving the show a 5-star rating on iTunes and for all the reviews on iTunes. We got one review that came in from Sevo Stoke that said, "I rode BMX for 35 years and never thought about life after. When I was towards the end, I was lost. I never knew about life. All I knew was BMX. Now I'm 47 and trying to rebuild my life. These interviews with BMX riders are so good." So thank you, Sevo Stoke, for that. And of course, if you guys have reviews that you want to go leave on iTunes, I'll continue to read the best ones here on the show. And with that said, this guy's talking about the BMX interviews, but hopefully he's been inspired to listen to some interviews with people outside of BMX, because that's kind of the idea of this show, is to expand your mind. And, if he's looking to sort of rebuild his life after BMX, then maybe there's something else out there for him on the other shows that will inspire him. Also, thank you to you guys who have used my promo code on Nutrasumma.com. That's Nutrasumma.com. Nutrasumma has some awesome vegan-friendly pea protein that I use, as well as amino acids and creatine that I take. So you can go to Nutrasumma.com, use promo code FATTONY1, and thank you guys for bookmarking the Amazon banner on the Expansion Project podcast.com and using that when you order some stuff. Now, I will welcome my guest who is Skyping in from Utah, I believe. So, Colton Satterfield, thank you for making the time to chat today.
Oh, definitely, dude. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man.
Did it work? Did you hear me?
Yeah.
I think we got a delay going on.
We did have a bit of a delay. Hopefully that doesn't keep happening here. So you're in Utah, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
So
Salt Lake City.
the last I heard, maybe I'm out of the loop a little bit more than I thought, but you were living in Cali. So give me the quick rundown of, living in Utah, coming to California, and now I assume moving back.
Yeah, I was living in Utah obviously before, and then the World of X Games year happened where it was like the 4 X Games. So I moved down to California, got a house, and me and Vince Byron lived there, and basically just rode a whole bunch. And it was kind of more like just nonstop training, just to be near like big ramps for that whole year. And then after about a year and a half, I just decided I wanted to move back home. So here I am again.
Nice. Where did Vince go? Did he go back to Australia? Is he with you in Utah?
He moved in with Pierre-Luc Gagnon, the vert skater.
Okay.
In like Encinitas, I believe. So vert dudes.
Cool. Right on. So you just are pretty fresh off of winning your second back-to-back gold medal for X Games Big Air. Did anything change in your life after winning your second gold and returning back to Utah?
I think some big things changed more on the first one. I think after winning the first one last year, it kind of made me focus on like hard work, and it made me focus more on people like Jamie Beswick and like Sean White and stuff like that. It gave me a taste of what winning felt like, and I'm like, man, this is what I've worked for all this long. And I think the difference between last time was that it made me realize that I wanted to put in the hard work, and then the difference between that one and winning this one was a year of a lot more hard work than I've ever put in, and realizing it again. And so I think after winning this one just made me even want to work even harder in the future to be able to, keep getting those dreams type of thing.
So when you're talking about this hard work, what kind of work are you specifically talking about? Give me a rundown of specifics of what you've been doing to either mentally or physically prepare for these kind of things that you're talking about putting in work for.
Yeah, so definitely, I feel like mentally I've always been there. I've always known what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, and I've always had an expectation of myself. It's not really an if but a when type of thing. But as far as physical, I think from last year to this year, I really focused on. I think vert and big air, especially vert, is probably the one discipline in BMX that takes the absolute longest to become good at. I've ridden everything. Most people don't know, I started riding BMX by riding street because I had nothing else to ride. So I've ridden everything there is, and I feel like vert and like big stuff like that takes so long to get good at. So I've always been kind of drawn to that because I feel like people like Jamie Bestwick or like any of those dudes that have been on it for a long time, Dennis McCoy and stuff, those dudes have put so much time and effort into it, and to learn a tail-up, you can't just like learn it, and once you learn it, you have it. You have to learn it completely differently, and it just takes a lot longer to learn. And so I feel like the same thing's kind of for big air, and so I've kind of been drawn to that. And I feel like most of us who compete on at least big air side of it, we kind of just ride it, like start riding it again like a month before X Games or something like that. And I feel like after winning last year, I like really put my, I guess, like professional athlete hat on, which I don't think many of us wear. Like I said, I look to Bestwick a lot and people like Sean White and just like dominant dudes, and really wanted to look at myself and like what I could do to make that happen. So, I decided what like a few gnarly tricks would be that would be like a dream trick that I could possibly learn. And then I focused on all my weaknesses and just basically rode it a lot. But instead of just riding it a lot, I forced myself to try crazy things. Like I don't know if you saw, I did a little interview with Vital, but I gave him a video of like one of the double flares I did on the big air ramp, like before I had done it on anything else, and just did a double flare to deck and just smashed myself and couldn't walk for a week. So like those kind of things, I think like, as far as hard work goes, it's more or less just like forcing myself to realize the level that I want to be at.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. We had a little bit of technical difficulties. We tried to restart the Skype call, so we are jumping back into things. But Colton, I've got to ask you real quick. The video of you winning X Games, there's a guy that's hugging you as the chick is trying to put the gold medal around your neck. I've got to ask who that guy was.
It's my buddy Don. I've known him for a while, and I just met him through other friends. And I met him in 2010. And the day I met him, I wrecked at a skate park and smashed my tooth out of my face. And like ever since then, we've just been like good homies. He's just like one of my good homies. And like he was telling me before, he's like, dude, because he knew what I was gonna do, and he was like one of the few people. He's like, I'm just gonna come out there, and when you landed, I'm just gonna tackle you. And I was like, sweet. So.
Nice.
My buddy Don. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So backing up a little bit here, I remember you first coming onto the BMX scene with a friend of yours named Ben Voiles. This was probably late 2008, early 2009, and at the time I was working for Ride BMX magazine, and it seemed like you guys were pretty much inseparable at the time. It seemed like you were both sort of traveling to a bunch of the different competitions, and it actually seemed like you were kind of on the same level riding-wise. At a certain point, your career sort of took off a bit, and even though he's an insanely talented rider, his career didn't really take off in the same level of success that you've had. So can you talk about sort of maybe what that relationship was like with you guys kind of starting out, and also a little bit of what it's like sort of seeing your career take off the way it did, but Ben, not so much?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting topic. Ben's definitely like easily one of my best friends ever, and he's probably the most underrated, in my opinion, BMX rider in all of BMX as far as what I see every day. I ride with him as much as I can. He lives in Idaho, but he comes down a lot and stays at my house and stuff like that. Me and him first moved out of like our parents' house together, and we literally went and like lived in North Vegas because it was super cheap. And just because it was winter and we needed a ride, and that was in the beginning of 2009. And then 2009, we both qualified in the Dew Tour that year, and I think Ben is still gnarly. We were riding the other day and he did a flip whip to tuck. I remember seeing a video of like Logan Martin doing a flip whip to tuck, and everyone's like, is this the first one ever? And I was like confused because I'd been watching Ben do that trick for like 2 years. Right. And no one knows. It's crazy. But I mean, Ben's a crazy story because most people don't know, like that kid like got cancer, dealt with cancer. I mean, I remember picking this kid up from the airport with a shattered face, and like his whole one side like shouldn't have been flying. His face is shattered. Like he's just, and then like 2 weeks later he like shatters his ankle, and like he's literally just like a story of like, man, this dude has like gone through a lot. Mm-hmm. But the rad thing, I remember talking to him, he's like, no, like I'm finally gonna like pursue this. I'm gonna move back down here and we're gonna get back on this hard. And then he like has a kid and like all these things, and so it's like he's never left his drive or left what he wanted to do with it. I mean, he was down at West with me before X Games riding Big Air and stuff like that, and he's so good and still pushes himself. I think he just dealt with like a lot of crap that came with, and it's not to say that I didn't have my fair share of crap too. I remember in 2008 actually, he went to Dew Tour and qualified in. So he qualified in 08, I qualified in 09, and I had torn my ACL, and I remember he didn't even have a frame, and so I took my brand new frame off with like about to have surgery and gave it to him and gave him my plane ticket and let him go off, and he went and got on Dew Tour. And so I was watching him for the first while being like, damn, I need to get to the level that he's on. But me and him definitely pushed each other a lot. Me, him, and Josh Holt, like all together, riding together all the time. Yeah, especially me and Ben.
That's interesting, man. I knew that he did have a battle with cancer, and thankfully it seems like he's better now. But I didn't know that he had a kid, and obviously he had some injuries and stuff too along the way. So that is pretty gnarly. So what is it like then for you, knowing that he's still so good and, had that kind of potential, but you're the one out of the two that sort of made it?
I don't know. I don't look at it like I'm the one out of the two that sort of made it. Like, I feel like we're both really on the same level. I feel like the only difference is now it's like, hey, dude, let's go here. And he's like, oh, I can't afford it. I'm like, yes, you can. Like, I'll pay for it. Like, I'll buy your ticket. I'll do this. Mm-hmm. And so he's the dude that like, when I have $10 million in the bank, like I'll give that kid $1 million. You know? Like he's been that influential on my riding and been that good of a homie for so long. And so he's somebody that I obviously want to see succeed, but I don't look at it as and me and him don't look at it as like I succeeded and he did it. Mm-hmm. We both have always had really strong mindsets of like, we know what the end result's going to be. Like we know where we're going to be and we're not going to stop working until we get there kind of thing. And so like, there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to come. I mean, I remember seeing his runs from last year. He went to Texas Toast, and in my opinion, he did a straight up, the gnarliest dirt run I've ever seen. I mean, he did like a Superman secret grab bar spin straight to a flip bar to whip and all this stuff. And I think he got fourth or something. I feel like kid should have won, but I feel like he's still like out there doing what he can. And I mean, those little Outlaws of Dirt contests, he pretty much wins all of those. So it's not like he's completely gone. He just doesn't get a chance. He doesn't get a chance anywhere. And obviously now there's so few contests. So basically, as far as dirt, he can win. He has the opportunity and the potential to win every one of them that he's invited to. It's just, there's only really X Games dirt is like the major contest anymore. So I don't really look at it as that, like, I made it. I've been trying to get him on Big Air because he's so good. Like, and I feel like that ramp is like, would be good for his style too, because we both just like doing big tricks.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It is a little different. I feel like I'm a little bit more responsible to try to help him along and try to not be down, because I mean, I've had my downs along the way too, and I feel like he's just got a strong mindset, and I think he'll be fine. So I don't really look at it as like I made it and he didn't.
Yeah.
I just look at it as like, I mean, different times and different things, and he definitely has like a lot of I was the kind of dude that will always like put everything aside for riding, and he has things that he can't put aside. I mean, he's got a kid, he's a good dad,
Right.
and goes and sees his kid and that kind of thing. And there's things in life that can change it. But I mean, as far as his riding, he's easily the best he's ever been on a bike, which is probably top 5 BMXers in dirt easily, and then probably in some other things as well.
Nice. So switching topics a little bit, how would you explain or describe your personal career to someone outside of the BMX industry?
I have no idea. I always try to tell people like, hey, do you know what X Games is? If they don't know what it is, I'm like, all right, you don't want to know that. Like I get on, like, do you know what bikes are? We do tricks on those.
Okay.
Like we flip and stuff like that. So if you're outside of riding and you don't know what X Games is, you're kind of pooched on me trying to explain it to you, and I'm going to come off like a circus clown or something like that. So I just try to like, I won't tell you what I do then.
Yeah.
Hopefully they know.
So how do you explain your career, and not necessarily what you do as far as I do tricks on a bike, but your career path as to someone in the industry maybe? Because as someone that, obviously works in the industry, you weren't ever one to have a bunch of coverage in magazines and stuff. You kind of went straight to the contest scene, and that's sort of where you're making your mark right now. So if you had to explain, your career path to someone within the industry, how would you describe that?
As far as how I came to where I am,
Yeah,
I would say the best way to explain it is that I feel like a lot of kids get slept on, straight up. And I feel like a lot of kids, like if they're not from California and stuff like that, and they don't come up from that area where they're around people all the time and they're just seen at contests. I mean, when you're a broke kid that literally has no money and like you save up all year to be able to go to one contest, it's hard to be in the scene where everyone in the industry is at,
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like for the longest time, the only way that I could prove myself was through contests.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never really had the opportunity to, go and hang out with these people in the industry and that kind of thing growing up, because we live so far away. And I think for that reason, people like Josh Holt and Ben Boyles, and I mean, there's this kid now that is on Nitro Circus all the time from Idaho. His name's Curtis Downs, and he's insane. And I feel like just the area difference, I feel like it's slept on. So I feel like for me, when it would come down to contest, that would be like the chance that I could have to prove myself. And that was really my only outlet to be around people within the industry.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So speaking of those contests, right now it seems like you're pretty focused on the Mega Ramp, which is basically X Games and maybe like another mini mega type event scattered out somewhere around the year. Why does it? Am I correct in thinking that it seems like that's what you're focusing on?
I just think that ramp is really exciting to me. I was talking to my buddy the other day. He's like, well, we were talking about just like having some deep conversations. Like, well, life's not about just being happy. It's about pursuing what excites you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what like the life, even more than being happy. And I feel like that ramp is whenever I find myself thinking about it all the time. And I'm still really influenced by dirt, and I love like big dirt jumps. I love riding that more than pretty much anything. If you got like some really big dirt jumps. And so I still want to like pursue everything there, but I feel like whenever I think about big air or all that stuff, I feel like there's so far to go on it. And it's like everything I like. I feel like I've had my time with everything else. Like I really want to pursue vert obviously as well, because I feel like that's such an acquired skill. Like it's you have to be so good and put so many hours on that thing to be like somebody like Bestwick or Vince Byron or something like that. Some dudes that just really kill it on that. But like you were saying, I feel like I would say most of my focus, now is big air, just because, especially like I feel like as a kid when I grew up, I would watch X Games and stuff like that, and I'd want to see like the big thing. Like I would watch just to watch Dave Mirra do a double backflip, and I would not care what he did. I wouldn't care about the Fufanu or the full run he did. I would just be like, that dude is nuts. And I remember a time like watching Stephen Murray ride dirt at like Gravity Games, and he had all these cramps and he wasn't able to ride, and then he just decided to send a 3-flip on the last set and pulled it. And like those are the kind of like moments that like get me psyched about BMX and like have always got me psyched about BMX. And I feel like after winning like my first gold medal, I'm like, man, I've done everything that I could die happy today, you know?
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've done everything that I want to do in my career. And so I feel like after that, it kind of opened my eyes up to like the full circle moment of like, look where you came from. Like you were a super broke kid who had no chance of going anywhere, and everyone laughed at you when you wanted to do anything. And now I feel like I can be like from Big Air. Like I'm pretty happy with the amount of work I put in and was able to do the trick I wanted to do at this X Games. And I've been like overwhelmed with the amount of people that have like somehow felt like somehow inspired by that kind of thing. And I feel like that's exactly like what I want to do. Like, I feel like that moment was a full circle moment because I remember being like a kid with a dream watching K-Rob do the first double flare. And I remember we didn't even have like TV channels. So I went over to my buddy's house to watch it and was like, dude, this is unreal. Like that's what gets me excited about BMX when somebody does something, you know, massive. And so to be able to do that for myself and for everyone else, like I feel like what gets me most excited is like what people get when people get pumped and want to do something for themselves. Because I'm kind of I'm definitely pretty big on pushing the realization that anyone can do anything with their lives, and I feel like for me, BMX would have helped that, even if I would have had dreams to be, you know, like a rider or something or anything outside of riding BMX or a doctor or whatever have you. But I feel like it can inspire people big time, and I feel like that's what gets me more excited than anything. And I feel like riding Big Air, like when I think about it, there's so many possibilities of really big, new, groundbreaking things, and it's fun to watch for me, and it's fun to ride for me, and I feel like it's a more inspiring thing.
So, kind of building on that question, so clearly that is your focus right now. Why is it that one focus is the way to go for you? Is that because Mega Ramp requires so much discipline and so much work just in itself, or is it because that's purely what is exciting you the most right now, and so you'd rather just focus on one thing than try to spread yourself thin? Like, why choose that one thing?
You know, I'm always going to do what's fun, but I feel like I said, I feel like I think about it a lot. It excites me as like thinking about it. I don't find myself thinking about the fun things I can do down this stair set.
Okay. Yep.
Or something like that, you know. I find myself like, man, like this is totally possible. I'll watch like snowboarding and be like, and watch something they'll do and be like, oh my god, like could you imagine doing that on a bike? Like that's totally possible. Like I remember me and Vince talking about him doing a 540 flare on vert before he even tried one, and like that was from like watching things like that and being like, dude, you can totally do that. You can totally do this. You can just so many things and so many possibilities. And I feel like that's what my mind thinks. I feel like my mind doesn't really think of like other little things like I don't know. I have fun doing anything else. I have fun like going and grinding a ledge, but I feel like I'm really excited about the future for myself and for what can be done on that ramp. And I feel like just riding that ramp, when you get more comfortable on it and when you learn more things on it, I feel like it's seriously one of the funnest things to do ever. Like when you can just jump that thing and feel good and not pull brakes and just go high and somehow not land flat and land perfect, it's seriously the funnest thing ever. It becomes less and less intimidating, and it's really just when you see your hard work pay off. And a ramp like that, I mean, it's fun. I like being in the air. I like jumping things, and I feel like, I mean, obviously that's the top end of that kind of thing.
Yeah. So with that said, there's no mega ramp that I'm aware of in Salt Lake City, Utah. How often do you ride it, and why not? You know, if it excites you so much and that's your focus, why not live, where there is a ramp?
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of why I moved to Riverside at first. Like me and Vincent in Riverside, and it's kind of hard. Like I couldn't really live in like Tehachapi where the thing is, and they only let you ride it at certain times. So it is kind of hard to be on all the time. So I try to get on as much as I can. I feel like living in California, I was traveling so much from there anyways, and then still coming back to Utah. And I travel so much wherever I live anyways. So I feel like for me, it's not a big deal to drive 10 hours to go to West. Like if somebody called me up and was like, hey, like, let's have a session tomorrow. Like, I'll get in the car and drive till 3 a.m. Like, it's not really a bother to me to do that, and
Wow.
then be able to come back and live near my friends and my family and that kind of thing. Like, it's more worth it for a mindset for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like everything in life is a mindset, and wherever you can be to have the most peaceful and best mindset for yourself is in the end what's going to be the best for you. So I didn't feel living in California, I didn't feel as motivated as I do here. So
Yeah.
I'm here like, dang, I really want to go there and do this and this. And I feel like after X Games, everyone's like, oh, you can relax and stuff now, like you did what you set out to do. And I feel like the second I got home, I like was so excited to just go back down there and ride it more.
Uh-huh.
And just because like I don't know, I feel more and more comfortable on it all the time. I'm like, oh, dude, I want to do this, and I want to do this. And so I feel like it's just for me, living in California felt like more of a job, and for living up here, like I'm excited to get my friends like Ben or something like that. If I lived in California, like I wouldn't be able to be like, Ben, let's hop in the car and like go down and ride this or something like that.
Yeah.
And instead it'd be like waiting around for somebody to ride. I feel like more of my friends too feel like I ride more living in Utah. I feel like living in Riverside, like Pat Casey was like the only dude that was riding all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go over to his house and that kind of thing. But I feel like I definitely ride more and have more friends to ride with here.
So besides the 10-hour drives to Woodward West to ride the mega ramp, where are you riding in Utah these days?
My buddy John Beathers, he builds ramps, and he's got basically everything, and we just set up whatever. So I mean, we had just recently set up like a 16-foot rolling with basically like two 20-foot jumps that were like metal trails.
Oh, cool.
Which is fun. And then I just bought us all this big resi just to basically party and slam on, and it's ended up being like a major mistake. I basically got like smashed on it the other day. Like just all these things that like you think like when you get a resi it's going to be so safe, and we were just kind of like doing stupid things on it and ended up not being safe on it. Like just dumb things like you've never done a 450 over this jump, but now you're doing a 450 because you're not thinking about it. But yeah. I feel like it's just a fun place like to go and have fun, and we can set up really whatever we want. He's good at building like portable style ramps. Like basically most show companies that use like the small quick setups are all his ramps. Mm-hmm. At least most of them, like Dan Hubbard and like all those dudes. And so he's got like a ton of stuff. We can just set up a 16 wide, 10-foot tall quarter pipe with two people in like 10 minutes. So that kind of thing is pretty rad, and we just are always changing it up. And then obviously like there's so many skate parks and stuff around here, but I feel like it really is back and forth between California and then just riding my buddy John's house. Okay. That's where like most of us are at all the time.
Cool. So you were talking earlier about this, and a lot of your social network posts talk about this as well. You mentioned you were a kid with a dream, and you've kind of achieved that dream. So what exactly was that specific dream, or what goal did you have in mind when you post those kind of things, or when you say those type of statements?
Yeah, man, I literally was just, when I grew up, that's what I wanted to do. You know, when I remember it was 1999, I watched the Gravity Games and I watched Dennis McCoy do a 900 to flat and put his handlebars through his face, and he was like bleeding super crazy and just getting up and smiling. And I'm like, that dude is badass. And I was in 4th grade, and that was like that moment. I always remember that moment because that was like the changing moment for me. And I was interested in everything. I skateboarded all the way up until I was 15. And all I did was skateboard. But every time I watched stuff on TV, it was like BMX was so much more interesting to me. But I never had it was always like struggling to get money to be able to buy a bike or something like that. And like that kind of thing. And so whenever I get a bike, I remember I finally got like this Nyquist Haro X2, and like something instantly broke on it, or like my brakes broke and I didn't know how to fix it. And so like just rode brakeless for forever with all the brake parts still on there, and then like the handlebars bent, and then I'm just out of it, and so I'm back to skateboarding type of thing. But I've always I would say especially since I was 15, like I really pursued it. All my friends were doing it. I don't know, it was always something that I kind of saw. And then when I was about 16, it became like a full-on decision for me. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And I feel like I mentioned earlier in 2008, like when I tore my ACL and gave my bike to Ben or whatever. I was 18. I tore my ACL doing like a school show. And I remember getting a good job, and I was like this young kid, and I was already like over like 40-year-olds working at this like telephone place or something like that. And I remember just looking at like these people that I was already over, and they were like 40 some years old. And I remember at that point, I'm like, I mean, I tore everything in my knee, meniscus, MCL, ACL, everything. And there was like a huge turning point where I looked at these people and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go to college. Like, I'm going to be serious about my life, because like I remember like my grandparents or something like, oh, this is like God telling you, like, cause you've had injury after injury after injury. Like, this is not meant for you or whatever. I remember seeing these people, and I was going to go to school, and I was going to get a loan for a car cause I had a decent job. And I remember just being like, dude, F this. Like, I'm not going to be that dude. I'm not going to be like 60 years old and look back on my life and be like, you're a pussy, dude. Like, you fully gave up on what you wanted to do with your life. And so I remember it was like 3 months after surgery. And my mom had like this ghetto leg press, old school machine. And I went and did like leg presses on, I think, for like 6 hours to get my quads back to where they needed to be. And at 3.5 months after surgery, I hit up my buddy who was doing school shows and stuff like that. I was like, dude, I want to come out. Like, I'm done with this. Like, I feel like that was a huge moment in my life that I like 100% decided, like, all or nothing. Like, you've been hit with like the worst. Like, you have no real support outside your mom. You have no real anything. You have no money. You have nothing. But it was whenever I talk to people, or whenever I try to get people excited or get myself excited, or ever bummed out or ever hard to make a decision, I always like tell myself that, like, dude, when you're old and like dying, what do you want to look back on your life and say? Like, do you want to look back and be like, oh yeah, I'm really glad I didn't do any of that so I could live like a financially comfortable life and be able to drive the car I want and get the education I want, whatever. Like no, like that personally is not my goal in life. Like, I want to be able to get whatever I wanted. And so I think ever since that moment, it was like 100% BMX. And I remember less than 6 months after surgery, I went back in and I'd shattered my elbow out on tour again. And the doctor was like, dude, you're not even supposed to be riding right now. But that was at the end of 2008. And then 2009, right after all those injuries, qualified in a do tour. And then I remember making finals in Salt Lake. That was my first final ever in dirt. And just being like, dude, if I'd listened to the doctor right now, I wouldn't even be riding at this point. And now I've already accomplished everything I could accomplish. And that was like a big moment for me. Like, damn, like, look what I've done just because I decided I wanted to do it and put all my effort into it. And I mean, that's when, beginning of that year, when me and Ben I moved out and moved to Vegas and put in a bunch of work there. And I feel like everything in life's a mindset, you know. Like, I've had more things happen that should slow me down since then, but everything's a mindset, and as simple as that. And I look back at myself and I'm like, man, like, I was so pumped then, and I really was nowhere. Like, I was a kid who made like one final, and I felt like so set then. And I look at myself now, I'm like, dang, last year, like, you felt so sick of you, like, you felt so accomplished, and you really just like only won one time. Like, you weren't like what you want to be, like, you know what I mean? And so the more I accomplish, the more I'm like, it's just all stepping stones in life, you know? And I'm big on people, you know, realizing their potential, because I feel like there's so many people that you know, squander their own talents and their own gifts because of what kind of they're led to believe throughout their whole lives. You know, I feel like growing up in school, like, you're like, what is your dream? Like, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to do X, whatever. Like, okay, yeah, do that. And then when you're in about third grade, they're like, okay, yeah, do that, but have a plan, have a backup plan. And then by the time you're coming out of middle school, your dream is completely gone and you're just focused on your backup plan. And I don't even think in life you should have a backup plan. I think I really don't. I feel like anyone who is confident enough, like, everyone should be confident in what they want to do. And it can take 30 failures and you can be 70 years old before you see it. But if you don't, I saw a sweet quote from TJ Lavin not that long ago, and I'm going to totally mess up whatever it says, but it's basically like, you're only on the road to achieving every single thing you want. You're only on the road you're basically going directly towards your goals and everything you want, and you're about to get your dreams. The only way that you ever don't achieve them is by just changing your path and deciding that you're not going to get them.
Mm-hmm.
So you essentially decide your own fate. And I feel like that's true with everything. I see so many riders that are just like so damn good and make a decision and they're gone and they're blaming this or blaming that or blaming this, why they didn't succeed. And I'm like, dude, every decision was made by you. You decided not to do this. You decided not to do that. It's not just in riding. It's in anything else, And so I feel like it's been cool to be able to see with like little things that I'm able to do to like through riding and stuff like that for like kids to realize, like really see and realize that they can do big things with their life. Because I feel like life's just one big hologram, dude. You can create it to be whatever you want. It's just sitting there waiting for you to decide what you want to do with it. And sadly, we have so much fear pumped into us that so many people choose to take this safe route, which is just throwing your life away,
Mm-hmm.
So the more people I can get to see that, I'm psyched.
So going back kind of to build on the question that originally prompted that was, so you're in fourth grade, you see Dennis McCoy on TV slam on a 900. So was the dream at that point for you, or was that goal for you to be a pro rider? Was it to be on TV? Was it to make BMX your living? Was it to, win a gold medal? Like what was in your mind at that time? Like what was the end game? Which obviously has changed now, but.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think there was like a really end game. I think when I first saw that, it just really like turned me on to BMX and turned me on to action sports. I was like, dude, this is so awesome. And I think it wasn't until like later when I had watched it and gotten more into it that I really was like, this is what I want to do. And obviously that one major point was after I got hurt that I was like, I'm going to take this as far as I can, And yeah. So
it sounds like when you're talking about chasing your dreams and your goals, it's not necessarily like maybe that's an evolving answer or
Absolutely, man. It's absolutely an evolving answer. I feel like, I remember riding at my grandparents' house as a little kid, like just this teeny jump, like I'd skateboard and I'd do this, whether I was skateboarding or whether I was doing whatever. I didn't skateboard in my driveway. I would always like envision myself as like this pro kid, like a kid playing basketball, like envisioning he's hitting like the game winner for like a finals game or something like that. Like the same thing for BMX, like, or skateboarding or something like that. Like I always thought like along those lines of like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be like that kind of person. So it's kind of funny as like a kid, just kind of messing around that's what I ended up doing.
Yeah. So you're certainly into, inspiring other people and talking to other people about kind of chasing their dreams and goals and stuff. Can you give me a story of a time when you've been able to inspire someone and, how maybe that's gotten back to you or how they've relayed that message to you that you did inspire them?
Yeah, man. I feel like the biggest thing for me is we did this event in Idaho, the town I grew up in. So I was born in Salt Lake, and when I started riding, I lived in Idaho. And half my family lives in Idaho, half my family lives in Salt Lake. And we did this event at Idaho State University, and Vince Byron did it with me, and it was pretty rad. And it was called Ramp Ride, but it was last April, so it was only a few months ago. But it was massive, dude. We basically got like 5 of the best moto athletes, like Nate Adams, like Mike Mason, like big heavy dudes, and then like Zach Warden and obviously Vince and a couple dudes in BMX, and we filled up this indoor arena that holds like 12,000 people. We had like 7,000 people, so it was still pretty big. But the whole thing like was basically kind of like just a big show, but in an area that no one really ever gets to see that kind of thing. But the whole thing was done under the guise of inspiration. So it was all like, look, like I came from here, and I feel like that area doesn't really get that kind of thing. Like I came from here and I was able to do this, or like Vince came from where he came, a similar area in Australia, and did this or this or that. Anyways, I feel like this crazy moment we found this. Somebody was telling me, and I was like trying to rent ramps for this kid's thing. I overheard somewhere this kid who has cancer. He's like this little like 7-year-old kid, and his dream was to be a professional BMXer of all things. And he was from like outside of Salt Lake City, which was crazy. And so like we had him come to the event. and got him like all there and this and that, and like basically made him a pro rider and rode in front of everyone. But it was like at the same time we had Ben Boyles there who was killing it, and he had gone down that same road, a kid who just wanted to do this and had to push through that kind of thing. And I remember after that whole event for months, and I still get it, man, like just crazy outpouring of people whose lives are like fully changed by it. I got like this 4-page email from like some lady that works for the city who I'd never known about like how crazy it affected her kids and stuff like that. And just like all these crazy things that we just wanted to do. Like, well, I want to be able to share action sports with this area. Let's do it under something cool too, and try to push it a little bit. And we were able to push it like a lot harder. The message actually went a lot stronger than I thought. But it's crazy and more exciting to me when I actually see people actually get changed by something like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like we all have such a bigger voice than we think we do, because we're often so quiet. Like we'll see people on the side. Like we all keep to ourselves. That's it. Like we're such a social species, but we'll be walking around and we'll see somebody who needs help or something like that, and we'll feel weird or embarrassed to like go talk to them or go like, or even just to say hello to people somebody that's next to you in the store, and let alone like try to help people out and give them a bit of your mindset, which is like kind of why I like what like this whole podcast thing is, because you can actually get inside people's heads and get some conversation that you wouldn't normally have.
Yeah.
But I feel like I feel like we all have a power to really change people's mindset for a lot higher positivity just by doing such little things, and I've noticed that. And I feel like even with riders, like anytime anybody gets down or something like that, I feel like just talking to other people, like so like Ben, for instance, like been homies with him forever, and he's a super positive, and I mean, that dude is an inspiring dude, but every once in a while I have to be like, nah, dude, look, like you want this, like get it, period. Like, and it always comes back to me, like anytime I especially talk about riding, like, do you want to be like that old dude and look back on your life and decide? I feel like that's the best thing. And I feel like that also is the reason why I try to like push the whole inspiration thing. Like, dude, we're all going to die one day and you're going to leave nothing behind. Like they're going to talk about like, oh, this dude was like, yeah, he was a really good rider, but he like was cocky and a prick and didn't talk to anyone else, or like no one's going to care about what you did riding a bike, and that doesn't live on. So like whenever I look at like life is like, okay, what are you going to look at yourself like when you're super old and dying or something like that, and look back and be like, dude, all the people affected by you and all the people that did rad things because of you. And I feel like and I was inspired to do what I wanted to do from a lot of rad people like Dennis McCoy and Kevin Robinson and those types of dudes. And so why shouldn't I be able to help people in the same way?
Yeah, man, that's really fucking cool. That's hitting me pretty hard right now. We turned off the video because it was taking up too much juice over here. But if you could see my face, I'm really, really thinking deep about this, talking about just kind of leaving that legacy behind and how you affected people and stuff, and that's part of the reason why I did this podcast, is because I wanted to be able to have some of that effect on people. And the more you're saying it, the more it just sinks into me of like, I do need to keep pushing to affect people in a positive way, and just hearing you talk like that makes me want to try that much harder to be a positive influence on people. So I thank you for that, man.
That's awesome, dude.
So you're talking about kind of a message and having a voice and stuff. So this year on the X Games, you knew that you were going to have a lot of television time, and you chose to wear a shirt with a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. on it that says love. I don't know if that's a brand, but it doesn't seem like it is. Explain that choice, because obviously you could have gotten paid to wear some kind of a corporate logo across your chest, but you chose to wear something that says love.
Yeah, that shirt is sick. I actually made that shirt, and it's not a company or anything. I made it myself, and I'm big on like kind of what we were talking about. I'm big on pushing like unity and stuff like that, and I think like the looking at everyone as different is just a joke. But anyways, I just try to push that, and it was a photo of Martin Luther King. It was his mugshot, and it had a number originally across the thing. And so I photoshopped out the number and just put love. And that's a dude that's like and super inspiring to me. And that's kind of like exactly what I'm talking about. Like that dude's dead, gone, but still affecting like tons of people in the world, you know, still affecting positive change still just by that kind of thing. So, I mean, I feel like, it's been crazy too how many people are like, dude, where can I, like, I probably had 200 people on Twitter. Seriously, like after you're on TV for a big event like that, you just get blown up on social media for like a day.
Right.
And so many people were going crazy over that shirt. Like, where can they get the shirt? And it's just like pretty wild to me, the kind of impact that shirt had.
Yeah.
But
That's
I don't
cool,
know.
Man. So talking about people that are inspiring to you and stuff, I know Kevin Robinson is a big inspiration. On Instagram, when he was kind of congratulating you for the win at X Games, he said, "You and I will always have a bond." And I was wondering, did he mean that, do you think, just because you're the only two that's ever done a double flare in a competition, maybe with the exception of one other guy in the UK? Or just sort of the big air ramp thing in general? Or is it more to that? Like, do you guys have kind of a deeper relationship that I don't know about maybe?
I don't know. I think I relate a lot to him in my goals. I feel like I've always been straight up with him. Most people, if you're positively affected by somebody, or like you see somebody that like has had a positive impact on you, you're kind of nervous you don't ever want to tell somebody exactly what kind of impact they've made. You don't
Right.
ever want to be that corny dude and be like,
Right.
"Oh, dude, you've changed my life," like that kind of thing. That goes for anyone. It's like, I bet like your parents have made a big impact on you, but you don't call them up and cornerly like they tell them how much of an impact they've had on you, that kind of thing.
Right.
He's like the only dude that I've ever been able to be like, dude, you've changed my life, just not only by the person you are, but by literally helping me. And he's a kind of a person that's always helped me. He got me on to riding big air. And I remember ever since that day, he'd always been so cool to me and just been like a genuine person. And I feel like he's one of the few, I mean, granted, there's a lot of awesome people in BMX, but he's a really good role model through and through. I feel like, whenever I look at everything he's done in his career, like I look at him as like a blueprint for myself. Like at least if anything more, like by inspiring people, doing what you love, and then focusing on. I feel like he truly focuses on everyone but himself. Like he doesn't really ever focus on himself, and everything that he does do is to push the progression of what he loves, not his personal he's never a selfish dude. And I feel like with his family, with the way he is to everyone, with his positivity, like I remember like there were times in BMX where all I saw was like negativity. I'm like, dude, BMX sucks. Like the industry sucks. Like everyone just wants to like hate each other. Like they just because it's this way or that way. I'm like, that's stupid. And then you realize like the power. Like I've just grown to know like the power of like positivity and how it really outweighs like a lot of negativity, because we all inherently at the base level want to be positive and want to be in unison and want to be this way and that way. And I feel like he's always been like that positive dude, and it totally changed the way that I wanted to be. And like I don't want to be like that corny professional athlete or whatever that goes out and like it's totally like shit faced and looks like an idiot. Like I want to be like somebody that actually, that kids look up to and kids can be like, damn, like I want to do something sick. Like, and I feel like obviously that dude's just like a full circle with my experience with Kevin, because like I said, I watched him on TV, got super inspired by him, wanted to do all this stuff. And I feel like if I can have a career even like half as crazy as his was, with half the inspiration and treat people as good as he does, I mean, somebody could literally come up to his face that he respects and tell him everything terrible in the world to try to bring him down, and he would just smile at you and give you a hug and like walk off. And like, dude, that dude is. So I mean, I don't know what he really meant by that Instagram, but I've always personally felt like really blessed to call him a friend for sure.
Cool. So a couple things to tack on to that. First of all, if you guys listening have not listened to the episode that I did with Kevin Robinson, please go listen to that. It was a great episode, and Colton's absolutely right. He's just the nicest dude. so inspiring on so many different levels, and just an all-around great guy. And I think a lot of people can get a lot from him and out of that episode. Another thing is you were mentioning, not being able to tell people the way you really feel about them and stuff. And I try really hard to live a transparent life. And there's certainly been times when I felt that same way, where it's like, you don't want to be that awkward guy, just kind of relishing how you feel about somebody. But then there's also been times when I have brought myself to do it. And, there's been times when I've text messaged my parents just on a random day, just saying like, hey, Dad, like, I love you, like, you're the best. And, you've really had a great impact on my life and stuff. And just kind of being real genuine and telling people how you feel about them.
Definitely.
So
I think that's a huge thing to do. I don't know if it's just like our society that's led us to stray from that kind of stuff, but I feel like obviously inherently, if we feel it, like it's real. I feel like we've been conditioned to see ourselves as separate from everyone else, but whenever we do that kind of stuff, it ends up being like positive for everyone,
Yeah. So
because I know when somebody says something like I've impacted them in a positive way, it affects me more positive and makes me want to do it even more,
Totally. 100% agree with that. So I'm going to challenge people listening to this to, call or text message or send an email to somebody that's had a positive effect on your life, and just, tell them a little bit of how they impacted you. So that's my challenge to my listeners here. Actually, another Kevin Robinson talk. I wrote this down, or I typed this out on my phone months and months ago, because I knew that at some point I would interview you, because I just think you're an interesting guy. And it's been floating around in my phone for a while, and I don't remember where I read this or saw this, but I wrote down that Kevin Robinson said that he looks at young guys on deck like you and remembers what it's like to be in your shoes. So I guess maybe he posted something on Twitter or Instagram and specifically, mentioned you and said that he remembers what it's like to be in your shoes. So I'm wondering if you look at people like Kevin and consider what it will be like when you're in their shoes and you're, older and have kind of run that course of, a long BMX career like he's had.
Yeah, it's definitely, I definitely do that. I definitely look at older people like Kevin and people who have done and had positive and long careers and stuff like that. And definitely, it's not necessarily pressure, but it definitely inspires me to want to be the best and work as hard as I can while I can, for sure. And I feel like I have so many goals. Like, I have a lot of goals within BMX, and I want to have a long and good career in BMX and the positive one. But I have so many goals outside of it too, and I feel like those looking up to those kind of people goes even past BMX, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, this question is not intended to be like an ESPN camera type question where you just give a pretty canned, like, oh, I just want to try my hardest, yada, yada. Like, I'm looking for really specifics, if you're willing to divulge. So when you say that you have goals within BMX and without BMX and outside of BMX, I'm very big on writing down goals. And actually this year, for the first time ever, I posted my entire list of goals on my blog, which was being very, very kind of open and vulnerable, I think, because it's very personal stuff. So I know that goals can be very personal. But if you don't mind, I would love to hear a couple of those goals, if you can be specific and not just say, oh, I want to work hard to be the best. You know what I mean? That's the ESPN answer. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you everything, like, straight up. I have so many different goals within BMX and outside of BMX. In BMX, I want to win. I want to be like Shaun White and Jamie Bestwick in BMX. I want to be dominant. I want to not be challenged by anyone. I want to bring a lot of progression. I want to do everything new, and I want to be at a point where I can be kind of a voice for people that watch at least what I ride in BMX and that kind of thing. So as far as BMX, I want to be like dominant within it. Are you just asking for goals within BMX, or?
Either one, but even within that, so you're saying you want to be dominant, you want to be like Bestwick. So do you have like quantifiable, like, I want to have 15 X Games gold medals, I want to pull XYZ trick,
I was thinking the other day, I was like, okay, well, in 9 years from now, I figured how I have my first gold medal hanging up on one side of my mirror, and I'm like, okay, 9 years from now I'll be 34. If I win every single one from now till 34, I'll be able to have enough gold medals to go across this whole thing. It was kind of a funny thing, and I'm not the kind of person, like, if you mess up like ones, like that's a huge thing or something like that. Jamie Beswick wins 9 in a row and doesn't win 10, and it's all it's like not like a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, you know. It's not a bad thing to not win all of them or something like that. But I was thinking about that and kind of laughing. So if I could be 34 and have 11 gold medals in a row, I'll be pretty psyched. And then it's obviously still be in BMX and then just focus on a ton of other things. I have so many goals within BMX, and then I have an equal number of goals outside of BMX that are just as big or bigger. So,
we're running a little bit short on time. I don't know if you have much going on today, but
no, just chilling.
Okay, cool. So I'm not going to try to cut this too short then, because I'd like to talk a little bit more about this.
Yeah, let's go.
So I'm curious, you're saying right now, like, you'll be 34, you'll have 9 gold medals or 10 gold medals or whatever. I recently did a podcast with Terry Adams where he was talking about when he started investing in real estate, and he kind of put a cap on it of like, okay, if I can get like 20 rentals, like that'd be crazy. Like, oh my gosh, if I could have 20 properties, like that'd be nuts. And now he's got more than 20, and he's looking at it of like, why was I so, limiting? Like, why would I stop at 20? Like, there's no reason why I need to put a ceiling on this,
Absolutely.
A little bit different, obviously, with gold medals because there's X amount of contests per year, and your age has a certain lifespan or shelf life within BMX maybe. But you look at somebody like Dennis McCoy, who's got a very, very long career, and who knows what other competitions are going to come around or whatever. So similar to how you had won the first gold medal, and you were like, oh shit, like that's just the beginning, Like maybe are you looking at this 10 medals now and like selling yourself short even then,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it wouldn't be like when I'm 34. So if I win all of them, that would be 11 from now, which is crazy. But like say I'm 35 and going back into it, like obviously I'm not going to not go at 35 if I feel great and want to ride and having fun, which I'm sure I will be, like, hopefully. And it's not like I'm not going to try to win then. So it's not necessarily like, oh, if I get this, I'll be happy. Man, I could die happy today, I feel like personally, the reason I thought about that is I feel like it sounds stupid, and every time I say that, I feel like I'm meant for big things in life. They call it a Messiah complex or something, but I feel like I'm supposed to do a lot of things. It sounds stupid, but
I don't think it sounds stupid at all, man. I think maybe people that have a smaller frame mindset would think that might sound cocky or arrogant or I don't know what, but I don't think it sounds stupid at all, man.
Yeah, it's definitely not a cocky thing, and it's more of like a selfless thing. I feel like we look back on history and we're like, damn, that would have been a crazy time to live. Like, could you imagine living back in like the Revolutionary War time or like World War II or like any sort of like crazy time? I feel like in all of history, 100 years from now, we're going to be looking back on this time in history and be like, that was a really crazy time to live. And I know a lot of people in BMX and a lot of people that are watching or listening to this are going to be like, what is he talking about or something like that. But I pay a lot of attention to what goes on in the world, and I pay a lot of attention to psychology and like things that normal BMXers and stuff don't pay attention to. And I feel like the world's in like a crazy transition period. And we kind of can choose what way we want to go. We can choose the hate way where we continue down this path, or I feel like this is the only time really in history that we can really choose to kind of unite and come together and live more positively on this earth and kind of, just in cooperation with each other. And I feel like looking at what goes on in the world now, I feel like it it's kind of funny because I read a lot and I'm like really into history, and I look at all these people like Nikola Tesla and like Einstein and like all these people who have like done crazy things, and they all kind of had like this same kind of feeling of like they want to kind of pull the world together and that kind of thing. And I feel like what I can do in BMX, I feel like every decision I make in my BMX career that is done with the decision to inspire kids has always been the right decision for me. So, and every time I look at a decision for myself personally, and like kind of a selfish decision, which most people look at for their career or something, is not necessarily the right one. So where I'll take like a risk that normally is a ridiculous personal risk, but it's it's meant to bring positive message to a lot of people and help a lot of people. In the end, is the right decision, and in the end brings more, positive doors opened and ends up being a more fruitful path type of thing. And I feel like outside of BMX, I mean, I definitely want to stack up a bunch of medals. That'd be cool. I mean, I definitely want to do what I can. I definitely really enjoy progressing BMX and really enjoy action sports. And I think it's a really positive way to go through life, action sports, and I think it'll grow and do well. But at the same time, I don't look at life as 100% is just about BMX like most BMXers. I still will work hard, super hard, and see other people's work ethic and want to work harder and to be better and that type of thing. But I look at the world around me and I see, like, I almost laugh sometimes with the amount of like the serious level people take riding bikes, And I'm not saying that it's not awesome or that it's not serious. I mean, people have gotten like seriously injured and it's a gnarly thing to do and stuff like that. But in the whole grand scheme of things, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It's a great way to be able to inspire others to be able to do positive things. It's a great way to be able to live a fun, happy life. Being happy and being excited in life is important. But I feel like I can do a lot outside of just BMX too to be able to make this world a little bit better. And I seriously think the more I grow up and the older I get, the more I really do realize the power, the positive power that one person can have, And that's why I kind of like try to, like that shirt I wore, like try to embody that kind of person, And I remember hearing this quick thought, like this KKK member would always come up to Martin Luther King's house and like burn crosses on his lawn. He was a police officer and would just always hate him. And like every day he would just be like super loving to this dude, and be like, hello, Mr. Whatever. And it's like this KKK dude telling this story. And he's like, man, I hated this dude for so long. And this dude's like 60 years old now. And he's invested like all of his time and money into all these positive and loving things, basically bringing all these people together. And he's like the most loving individual ever. And say Martin Luther King would have like had a normal person's reaction to this guy and gone out and like tried to fight him or gone out and like tried to protect himself or anything like that, he wouldn't have been able to make like this positive impact on this dude. And this dude would have hated him more and just taken this world down like a shittier path, And I feel like at the end of the day, love is really like the only thing that changes anything permanently. You look at everything that's been changed. I mean, we live in like one of the better countries. I mean, it's going kind of like in a weird way right now, but we live in a good country because people fought a revolutionary war against these people forever ago, And but it all comes down to like that was a violent change and it probably needed to be done, but now it's like coming back around to where it's like a lot of things aren't that good. Don't get me wrong, like I love America. There's like like I would never want to live anywhere else, that kind of thing. But you look at everything that's changed positively through just love, and it's always a lasting change, Like, yeah, there's still racism and stuff like that, but this dude was able to literally change the way an entire world sees a race of people, to where we have like a president is African American. I don't necessarily agree with everything he does, but I mean, we live in a world now where it's not culturally accepted to just be racist or something like that. And that was only changed. I mean, that's been around for a long time. And I feel like we need to look at that way. Like we look back on history in disgust at the way that we were. And I feel like we need to look back on history in disgust at like war and stuff like that as well. What we make the norm and what we just accept is ridiculous. And we need to, I feel like we all just don't recognize the power of ourselves, and we don't recognize that we're all the same thing and that kind of thing, And I feel like the more we do, I feel like I like things like this that you're doing because it makes people look real. Like I listened to the Dave Mirra one, and I'm like, dude, that dude's like down to earth and like a normal dude. I've never even met Dave Mirra. I've always looked up to him as like this godlike figure, and I'm like listening to him like, dude, that dude's just like a real dude. Like he's just living life. Like he's just a rad dude,
Yeah. It's funny that we started to get onto this somewhat political discussion here, because I knew that you had a lot of these views and stuff, and I kind of went back and forth in my head as I was sort of preparing interview questions for you of, do we stick more to the BMX thing and sort of like the mentality behind, the riding side of things, or do we go down this route? So maybe we'll save the rest of this conversation for a part 2.
Yeah, you don't want to
We'll
get
start.
too.
I know. So we'll start wrapping up with a couple of my quick hit questions. So first of all, how do you decompress?
I guess just chilling. Like I like to hang out with my family. I like to, I don't know. I guess just relaxing and not doing too much, listening to music. I play guitar. That's kind of fun.
Okay.
And just hanging out with friends, riding, chilling. I don't know.
All right. Have you had any mentors in your life?
Definitely. I think everyone, whether it's negative or positive, whether somebody's got hate or positive words, has always been kind of like a mentor. And I've always looked at everything in life. If you know where you're going, you know what you want, you focus on what you want. Every single thing that happens to you, everything that somebody says is meant to happen for you to be able to receive that outcome. Mm-hmm. And so I look at everything as a mentor. Seriously, it sounds super corny, but if you have a goal, whatever it is, if something negative happens, some people look at that as defeat and it's time to move on. I look at that as like a necessary step that needed to happen for you to get that goal. Mm-hmm. And I feel like whether somebody says something negative to me or something positive to me, I feel like that's all a mentor thing. You kind of decide. I feel like you're your best mentor at that point. You decide what you're worth in your own head. And I feel like anyone who, I mean, obviously positivity goes really far, and I've had so many people that have been so positive in my life. So it's hard to say. I think the best mentor is somebody that lives. That kind of leads by example, more than what they say. So
cool. So if there was a movie made about your life, what would be the hardship or obstacle that you overcame in order to achieve your success?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know. I don't know, man.
Okay, we can skip that one. No worries. When do you feel like you get hit by inspiration or ideas the most? Like, is there a certain time, maybe when you're, in a certain place or in a certain frame of mind?
Definitely. I would say driving for sure. Driving, or I'll like wake up in the middle of the night sometime with like some weird thought and have to like write it down. Mm-hmm. But definitely driving. I used to like obviously drive back and forth between Utah and California, living in California more often. And I still drive a lot, but living down there, I drive a lot more by myself. So whenever I'm driving like a long distance by myself, like I always have like, feel like it's real good because I'll listen to like some positive music and get cool ideas.
Nice. So say you're waking up in the middle of the night with an idea and you write something down. Do you type it in your phone? Do you text to talk it in your phone? Do you write it on a piece of paper?
Yeah, I've got pages and pages of notes in my phone. I'm just like, some of them I'll look back from like years ago and be like, what the hell, dude?
Yeah. I like to get into the specifics just to really get a feel for like how people's brain works and stuff.
Definitely.
So, say it's the middle of the night, you wake up, you grab your phone. Do you hit the voice thing and talk it into it, or do you actually type it out?
Yeah, no. I go over to notes, hit a new note, and just type in something, and then maybe like the next morning I'll read it and be like, what the hell was I thinking? Or maybe I'll be like, that was a good thing to write down.
Okay.
But,
Cool. Yeah. I use the Notes app quite a bit. And a lot of times when I'm trying to come up with questions for these interviews that I do, it's hard to come up with the questions like if I'm just sitting at the computer. So, for example, last night I knew that I was going to be talking to you today. So I went to the grocery store, and on my way to and from the grocery store, I was kind of just brainstorming on stuff. And then as I would think of something good, I would talk it into my phone, and it would do like the text dictation thing or whatever in the Notes app. Anyways, enough about that. So let's see. We've talked a lot about people that have inspired you and stuff, but can you give me kind of a specific example of maybe a time that you've modeled yourself after someone? Maybe you've seen like, personality traits or habits that they've had that you were just like, yeah, if I apply that to my life, it's going to make me better.
Yeah, I definitely think my biggest inspiration that I draw from as a person is my mom. My mom raised like me and my little brother by herself, like with like pretty much literally zero money, and then she put herself through college too and became a school teacher. So she's like a pretty good inspiration to me, and I feel like the best thing anyone can be taught in life is perseverance. You look at people like you mentioned Dennis McCoy earlier with a long career, like I look at Ryan Nyquist a lot. Like these dudes, everyone's going to have bad injuries, everyone's going to have these setbacks, everyone's going to have negative things happen. But perseverance is everything, and I feel like my mom was a perfect example of perseverance to me. So
Very cool.
that's a big one.
All right, we're going to end with our final question, and that is, do you have a favorite quote or maybe a favorite piece of advice that you've ever been given?
Ooh,
Or-
I really like that TJ Lavin quote. I should really look it up and get it right and see what it says. But I mean, anything in life, is so achievable, dude. And I feel like most people do not see that for one reason or another. And the funniest thing in life is when you get called lucky, and I just laugh about that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything in life is so achievable, but we decide our own path. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Life is our canvas. We get to choose what we do with it, and we only fail when we decide to step off that path.
Yeah.
Simple as that. So
love it. Cool. We're going to end there. So please tell people where they can find you online through your social networks or any other websites you want to promote.
Yeah, my Instagram and all that good stuff is Colton Sat, ColtonSatt, and I post a whole bunch of meaningless things, I guess.
All right. So, we'll have links to all that on the show notes. And, of course, that is at theexpansionprojectpodcast.com. While you're there at the site, click on the banners on the right side of the page. We've got an Amazon banner, Nutrisuma.com, and ChefKates.com banner. They've got some promo codes listed for you there that you can check out. You guys can follow me on my social networks at FatTonyBMX. And, of course, if you like the show, please go over to the iTunes page, give it a 5-star rating, and leave a review. I love getting the reviews, and that also helps the show get bumped up in the ratings and will help other people find the show and hopefully will help inspire other people. And, of course, if you learned anything from this episode, if you were motivated by anything Colton said, or if you were inspired at all, please tell a friend about it. Help spread the word any way you can. It's the only marketing we have, so we appreciate the promotion. So thank you, Colton, for joining me today, and keep up the great work, man. I love what you're doing, and I'll see you next time, man.
Hey, thanks so much, Fat. Psyched to be on it, and I'll be listening to all the other ones because I like what you're doing.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Have a good one, dude.